Hey there, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. Welcome to another weekly coach chat. Tonight, I will be talking to you about open water swimming, perhaps the most unenviable online chat topic known to man. I will attempt to communicate to you some good tips and strategies for open water swimming. As you can see, I'm not at a beach. I'm not wearing a wetsuit. There is no endless pool here in my office. Nor do I have some sort of giant whiteboard or swim simulator, as it were. So tonight's talk will require some creative energy and thought process by you. Of course, my notes will be put to the members' resource area under the swim section, and so you'll be able to sort of follow along and listen to the video as you go. But now that we're moving into race season, I find myself talking more and more to people about swimming. And not just any type of swimming, but open water swimming. And in particular, a lot of it came to light at our Ironman Lake Placid training camp, which we had 2 weeks ago now, I believe, when we did an open water swim session on a surprise modified day due to the rain. And it was interesting to hear some of the feedback from people about swimming. Really kind of helped spark some thoughts on my end, some tips that I've pulled together. I'm not a great swimmer in the context of triathletes. Coach Rich is the designated swimmer inside the house, but I do believe I bring the perspective of an adult onset swimmer, someone who's really focused at it and has to, quite frankly, work at it all the time. I can't just jump in the pool and go. Every swim session is a struggle for me in terms of maintaining form and skill, not unlike yourself. As a point of reference, my Ironman swim times have ranged between 101 back in the day, I don't even know how I swam that, up to non-wetsuit 114, 115 in Kona, and like 109 Ironman Texas, no wetsuit. Global warming has meant a lot more of my races have been without wetsuits, but I digress. So per our usual online chat strategy, I will be talking for about 20 minutes about open water swimming and swim tips. I've got quite a set of notes over here, and I'll be sort of glancing at them periodically. And then I'll be answering your questions, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat area. And then, obviously, at the end, I'll hang out for a while and answer any other questions you may have related to your training. This is an opportunity for our members, you guys, to connect with us and ask us your questions directly, and know that we're here, we're live, we're ready to help. All right, so without further ado, let me jump over here and pull up my notes. Make sure I have them. Okay. And again, I'll give you all these notes. You don't have to start taking notes or whatever else you might be doing over there, so you have them. Okay. So I kind of broke down the swim tip section into several elements. There's pre-swim, warm-up, sighting and steering, swimming style, main set, and finishing up. So you can see I got quite a bit to talk about here tonight, right? I may be guilty of overthinking the swim, so bear with me here. So pre-swim, first things first, I got to put this stuff out there. Number one thing you can do, got to think about safety first, okay? You're always swimming with someone else, with a swim buddy, whether they're swimming with you or they're in a kayak or a canoe, or there's a lifeguard nearby. Just because a place looks like a great place to swim doesn't mean you should just throw on your wetsuit and jump in there and start swimming. Really, you want to do research and make sure it's a safe place to be, and ideally swim with other people as much as possible. Okay, just make sure that it's safe, not just from like a motorboat alligator perspective, but just, you know, there may be bacteria in that water. Who knows what it may be? Okay, from a layout perspective, smaller loop courses are ideal. You know, if you've got a small loop that, you know, you do a triangle inside the lake and that's a half mile, that's fantastic. You're never that far from shore. It can't be that deep. You know, you've always got a chance to kind of get there if you need to get out of the water, whatever. Okay. All right. Then on safety tip, got to keep rolling with it. Make a plan. So know what you're going to do before you head in the water. You're going to swim for an hour. You're going to swim for 20 minutes. You're going to make that plan, and then you want to tell it with other people. You want to tell other people, like, hey, my plan is I'm going to swim from here to the other side of the lake and back again. If you just jump in the water and your buddy doesn't know where you're going or when to expect you back, that doesn't really help. So make a plan and share that plan. And then finally, on the safety element, have the right gear. First and foremost, you want to have a brightly colored swim cap. No swim cap is bad, hard to see you. A water-colored swim cap may not be ideal. Pink, green, yellow, Anything that makes you more visible is good. Remember, you're probably bobbing up and down in some swells or water. It's hard to see you from far away. You might be a bird landing for all we know, not a swimmer. You want to have some goggles, appropriate goggles, ideally tinted for open water swimming. You should be obviously wearing a wetsuit as almost a flotation device. You can float on your back in a wetsuit almost anywhere. Ideally, you're wearing a racing kit. Just to geek for a second, it's always great to wear what you're going to wear on race day. So wear your racing kit underneath your wetsuit so you have it. And if you're not swimming in a wetsuit because your event will not be wetsuit legal, then you're swimming in your speed suit. Okay. They also, for those of you who are beginning open water swimmers, they do make devices. I got one once as a free sample, which is basically like a belt that had CO2 in it, that when it went to a certain depth, or you pulled that, I think when you pulled the handle, it triggered, and it would inflate around your waist like a life jacket almost. So it's another opportunity for you. Some people swim with a buoy tied to their leg or something. I don't know. There's lots of options for you, but just make sure whatever you choose to be safe. If you don't have the opportunity to swim in open water with someone else or in a safe place, then go to your pool. Ideally, you can find a place to swim along course yards, or just practice swimming without touching the walls if you can. Which makes it a little bit harder for your workout. All right. So now that I covered safety, which is super important, got to assess those things and make sure you're all good in that department before you jump in the water. We can talk a little bit about warming up. Swimming for most adults involves a ton of stress. You're thinking about the pool. You're thinking, is that jerk going to be in the lane again? Is that strange lifeguard going to keep staring at me in the water? Like, is there something wrong with my swimming, or is there something wrong with that lifeguard? Like, why do they keep staring at me? When that guy jumps in the pool, I can totally smell his cologne. Does that mean he puts on a lot of cologne? Does he not showering? That's just freaking grossing me out. I have no idea what that's about. Those kids are swimming over there, or those old people. Did that old guy take a dump in the pool last week? Are those kids peeing in the pool? Like, oh my God, I have to get out of here and get to work. Is there going to be traffic? I can't tell. Is the clock inside the pool right? Can I use that tiny little clock to tell the time? All sorts of things going on in your head, and you're also like, oh, I need to think about technique and breathing and catch and pull and all this stuff. Really, really hard. When you get in open water, you also have a different set of stress. Much of the stress with open water is related to the fact that it's different stress than what you're used to in the pool. You're used to a black line, you're used to following a black line, you're used to buoys, people running into you, lane lines, walls, places for your food and drink, your kickboard, your workout. None of that exists in open water. And so it's a different set of stress. So a warm-up is really important as a ritual for you to get into the water and get comfortable, okay? That's super duper important that you go through this ritual every time and you set it up for yourself, okay? So what I recommend doing is make sure your wetsuit's on properly on the beach. Most people would consider that to be their warm-up, but it's not. Put on your wetsuit over your tri-kit or whatever you're wearing underneath it. I want to make sure that your wetsuit is nice and tight up in all of the joint areas, right? So you got nice and tight up in the armpit, nice and tight up in the groin area. It should feel very snug in there. A lot of times I see people wearing wetsuits where the wetsuit is down, like over their wrist. Like ideally your wetsuit is kind of up here, like almost above where you'd be wearing a watch. Same thing in your ankle. The wetsuit should not be over the top of your foot when it's fully on you. It should be, somewhere between your ankle bone and the bottom of your calf is an ideally fit wetsuit. Okay, it shouldn't be baggy, it should be snug. Make sure you zip it up carefully. Treat it with care. Put it on with the fingertips, not with your nails. We don't want to put a hole in it, anything like that. So, assuming you can wrestle your wetsuit on yourself and get a good Samaritan, or you can zip it up by yourself safely, great. So now you got to get in the water. Want to walk in the water slowly just to get used to the temperature. Walk up to your waist, which is just about the time the water starts to kind of seep into your suit, typically through a back panel or something like that. Get your hands wet. Use those hands. Wipe the water on your face. You're just familiarizing your body with the water itself, getting a sense for the quality of the water, etc. We don't want to just run and just dive in the water. You don't even know what's there. It could be a rock right in front of you. So we walk in to be safe, etc. Okay. I recommend that you, when you're into your waist and you feel ready to go, take a deep breath. And you basically just I hop up and pick up my feet like I'm going to do a cannonball, and I sink straight down in the water. And this is important because it gets me in the water, underwater, in a place where I can stand right back up again, okay, if I need to. It also, since I'm immersing straight down in the water, any air pockets I have in my suit go straight up to my neck, boop, and come out the top, and all the air bubbles are out of my suit. If you're standing in the water up to your waist and you dive in like this, you catch the air bubble, you carry that air bubble, and you've got this thing kind of blooping around in your back, which can lead to pockets, can lead to chafing, and just can overall make you insanely crazy because you're not going to stop at a race or a workout because you're a triathlete. So do that first, okay? Float like that for a second just to kind of get your bearings, stand back up again, and then you can start swimming easily, just nice and easy, okay? The idea is that you'll build from easy to steady over the course of about 10 minutes. It's hard to know what 10 minutes is for you. 10 minutes, if you're swimming 102 minutes, then 10 minutes is about 500. It's a pretty decent time spent swimming where you're just kind of building easy to steady. During this time, if you want to, you can work in any swim drills that are helping you with your technique. Swimming, even in open water, is still 80% technique, 20% fitness, and as such, the better form you can have, the better off you will swim. Ideally, remember, you want to do less work and just have all the speed. So high elbows, fingertip drag, catch-up drill, one-arm drill, any kind of rotational breathing drills you may do. All of that works in the wetsuit. I wouldn't really do any kicking drills in the wetsuit. You might get too hot, but anything with the front and front quadrant swimming, all those good drills will work for you. And again, we're just stretching yourself out, getting into a rhythm. For me, I like doing the catch-up drill, and I like focusing on high elbows. More on that later. And this is just, again, my ritual, my warm-up part of me being in open water. It's tempting to just hit the watch and just start going, but there's an acclimatization process that needs to take place, which is super important, so you can do that as well. Okay? So that is warming up. Again, get in the water, make sure we're safe. We drop straight down, let the air bubbles come out. When we do stand back up again and we're ready to go, we start swimming. About 10 minutes, we generally build from easy up to a steady effort. During that time, we work in any drills or anything that we want to do. Okay? Super straightforward, super easy. We're just kind of getting into it. Okay? So, before I talk about the main set, it's worthwhile for me to talk a little bit about sighting and steering, because generally, this is the hardest component for most beginners. It's hard enough to think about your form, and then you start drifting off to the left, or you drift off to the right. Maybe you're a zigzagger. And all of a sudden, forget about hand placement, catch, finish, breathing. You're just annoyed as crap that every time you look up, someone's moved that tree that you're trying to swim towards, and it's driving you insane. All right. So the #1 cardinal sighting sin that people make is lifting their entire head out of the water. Okay. Just a quick gut check for you. These are your eyes. These are the things that you see with. This is all that needs to come out of the water so that I can see where I'm going, okay? I don't need to lift my nose out of the water to see. I don't need to lift my mouth. I don't need to lift my chin, okay? None of this is related to me seeing, and hopefully not on you either. As a result, when you see people swimming and you see them lifting their entire head out of the water, you have to understand that in order to lift your entire head out of the water where you have no leverage, you are not pushing down on anything, you have to arch your back significantly. Tight back, tight hamstrings. If you're a cramper, you tend to cramp in the hamstrings when you swim, or your calf, or at the end of swimming, you tend to cramp when you try and get out of the water. 9 times out of 10 is because you are a very aggressive sighter, okay? So we really want you to focus on just looking with this. And in fact, even in part of your warm-up, you can practice just laying on your stomach, and literally like laying face down in the water. Make sure your friends aren't freaking out. And just practice literally lifting your head up so your eyes are out of the water and put it back down again. Just get used to that minimalist motion of lifting your eyes out of the water and seeing, right? Because when this is the water level, my head is like this as I'm in the water. I'm just going to lift it up like this and put it back down again like that. That's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to see how much work that is. Ideally, you should be able to isolate it just to your neck, not use your back, lower back, hamstrings, etc. to make that happen, okay? As a result of that cardinal sin, again, you'll have that cramping, that tightness, etc. So if those are symptoms that you do experience, you really want to work on that sighting, okay? Now, about sighting, you have to know where you want to go. You want to sort that out before you get in the water, okay? So plan on where you want to go. If you don't have a course, you're picking out a landmark, please pick something that doesn't move. Picking a hot air balloon, or the position of the sun, a cloud. These are all things that are not good things to pick. That family having a picnic, for all you know, they decide to move or leave. They've got to go somewhere. Their kid gets stung by a bee, and they go get an EpiPen. They're zipping off somewhere, and the next thing you know, you have nowhere to go. Okay, so pick something you can sight off of. Ideally, it's visible and it's high enough that just glancing on the water is enough. If you pick something that is on the water line itself, then you have to lift your head out significantly just because of the angle, there'll be chop, etc. So ideally you're picking something that is relatively high, a hilltop, a mountain peak in the distance if it's like Placid. If it's Ironman Austria, they do have hot air balloons, but they're anchored. You can follow those. Okay. Remember, when you sight, we want you to sight just enough to see, and I'm going to talk through the sighting process, and it's important for you to know how we want this to work because, so I'm going to go off my notes a little bit here, but because what most people do when they sight is they lift their head out of the water, and then they look for the thing that they're trying to find. So if I'm swimming this way, I look up, and the tree that I'm swimming to is over here. I look at that tree. Okay, the minute I look at that tree and I put my head back down again, now I'm screwed. Okay, because I don't know which way I was going, but I do know where the tree is, sort of, but I'm not sure where I am now. So it's hard to correlate how far I want to go. Every time you sight the same way, which is to say, you look straight ahead. If I glance straight ahead and the tree that I'm swimming to is over here, I know I need to start going to my right. Okay. If I look over to my right, now I just need to swim straight. Problem is, my vessel is pointed this way. It's hard to reconcile this way and where I need to go if I'm not looking where I'm going. Okay, so just like a bike, you look where you're going. Okay, so we're looking where we're going. I look up, I see that I'm looking, I see that tree's over here. I need to go that way, so I make a correction to go that way. I put my head down, I swim a little bit, I look up again, and now the tree's like here, which is better, so I'm getting better. I put my head down, swim a little bit, and now I look up and the tree's in front of me. Now I'm going towards that tree. Okay, that's the way that it works. What we don't want you to do is swim, look up, see your trees over here, stop completely in the water, do some sort of turny thing towards that tree, and then start swimming again. Okay, that effort, stopping and restarting, is extremely costly. What we're trying to do is avoid any interruptions or any slowing down in your actual stroke cycle. Every time you breathe, you slow down. Every time you sight, you slow down. And so the idea is you want to reduce the cost of the breathing and the sighting by keeping it as rhythmic as possible and keep you rolling along. Literally, you can swim faster if you swim 4-count breathing than you swim 3-count breathing. And you can swim faster even if you're off course a bit by just keeping swimming instead of stopping every 5 strokes. I just did the Rev 3 Quasi race this year, and the cross portion of the swim triangle is directly into the sun. That's just the way that it is. You can stop every 10 strokes to see if you can see a buoy yet, but I can kind of see some people in front of me, and I'm pretty sure most people are going that way. So, I'm just going to keep freaking swimming until I can see a buoy, and then I'm going to hone in on that. But stopping and looking at it only adds 20 seconds every time I stop for my swim time, which is not helping me finish, right? So I talked a little bit about the role of sighting, which is to say that it orients us which way we're going and where we need to go. Let me talk about the specifics of actually sighting itself, okay? So I mentioned to you earlier that I just want you to lift your head out of the water enough so that your eyes are out of the water and nothing else, because we don't need anything else out of the water to see. The way that I work that into my swim stroke is that I do it just before I breathe. Okay? A lot of people are tempted, cardinal swim sin, is to lift their entire head out of the water and breathe like this. This is not a natural way to breathe. When you breathe like this, your hips are dropping, your body's acting like a huge barge, slowing you down in the water. So I'm happily swimming along, and when I'm going to breathe, I typically breathe to my left-hand side. My right hand is going to go in the water as I roll to my left-hand side. So before I breathe, right hand goes in the water and it's reaching out in front of me. Before I start pulling down on the water, I use that hand in front of me as a lever to lift my head out of the water and just sight enough to see where I'm going, and then I roll to my side to catch that breath, and this hand comes around and I put it in. Okay? So again, right hand enters the water for me, I'm reaching out under the water, I lift my chin up to get my eyes out of the water to see, and then I roll to the side to breathe. Okay? So it's a very simple rhythmic motion. I can roll to my side because as this hand enters the water and I reach out in front of me, I naturally would roll to the side anyway. I'm not trying to interrupt my swim stroke by lifting my whole head out of the water. Okay? So I'm literally just reaching, looking up, rolling, and breathing. It's a very simple motion. Okay? So you need to practice that yourself, but it's reach, sight, roll. That's what you want to think about. Okay? Reach, sight, roll. Again, all you need to do to sight is get your eyes out of the water. That's it. All right? So what does it mean to actually steer? So we've talked about swimming, and we're swimming straight, and we've got a good rhythm, and you're reaching, sighting, and rolling. And that dang tree, buoy, mountaintop, hot air balloon, whatever you picked, always kind of seems to end up over here. How do you fix that? I already told you that we don't want you to kind of do one of these jobs to kind of turn yourself around like a pontoon boat. What you want to do is when you're normally swimming, you're putting your hands in front of your shoulders, in front of your body like this, right? Because you're moving forward, you are front wheel drive. So instead of putting your hands in front of you like this to go straight, if I need to go over this way on my side, I just put my hand in the water over here, okay? Since I'm moving forward, the simple act of putting my hand in front of me out to the side like this is going to act like a rudder. In fact, sometimes I'll even put my hand in the water, like thumb up, like I'm shaking someone's hand, to act even more as a rudder if I really need to turn, especially at a turn buoy, for example. I'll put my hand out in the water like I'm shaking someone's hand. That really starts the turn process. It allows me to keep my swim cycle. It allows me to keep moving forward, reducing any breaks in my natural swim motion. And what I do basically is I'm swimming along, I sight, I see that the tree is over here, I throw an arm stroke in on the side. I do 2 more breath cycles, I sight, the tree's a little bit more over, I throw another stroke out. Eventually, I start to realize that every third breath, the arm needs to go out, or every second breath, the arm needs to go out. Eventually, as an autocorrect mechanism, whether it's the current, the wind, or just simply my messed up swim form, is forcing me to go off to one side or the other. All I have to do is, as I'm swimming, I just know I'm going to drop one hand out to the side. Left hand goes wide to go left, right hand goes wide to go right. Very simple, and again, it allows you to maintain that rhythm, allows you to make corrections in your steering in a way that doesn't impact your actual swim stroke and allows you to keep rolling. I cannot overstate to you the cost of fully stopping and restarting. You're like a plane. You've got to get that whole thing up in the water and then moving forward again, and that initial effort is a serious amount of exertion that will cost you again and again over time, every time you do it. Okay? Those are good things to practice when you're out there swimming on your own, especially in that warm-up portion and the out portion of your swim when you're building from easy to steady. Focus on the sighting with your eyes only. We want to, we've got the arm, right? We're going to reach, sight, roll, reach, sight, roll. And we're also going to work on using our hands as rudders, figuring out what that rhythm is for you. Because, I can't just say it's always one way, because some days I go to the right, some days I go to the left. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Either way, just, do a little correction here or there, and you're all set, okay? All right, let's see. Remember, another element about sighting for you guys. You don't need to paint a digital, high-resolution picture of where you're going. If you're looking for a buoy that's orange, all you're doing when you lift your head up is looking for something that is remotely orange that kind of looks like a buoy. All right, you don't have to read the number on it. You don't need to know that there's a boat right behind it. You're not going to get quizzed on this later. So you don't need to stop and slow down and really kind of take it all in and be like, I can't take my stroke yet. I got to see where I'm going. Did you know there's a peregrine falcon in the tree over there and the sun is obscured by... Doesn't matter. You're just swimming. You look up. You're like, orange, good. Swim, 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 swim. Orange, up over here. Swim. Stroke out to the side. Look up. Orange, good. That's all you got to worry about. Okay. Super, super simple. All right. Okay. So 3 more things to go. We're over halfway down. I hope you guys are tuning in here. The next element is swimming style. Open water swimming style is very different than swimming in the pool. Okay. There's no walls to lean on. There's typically other considerations like wind or current or a little bit of chop. It can be more exhausting just in general. So ideally, since you're in a wetsuit, we want to get used to swimming in a wetsuit. And we want you to think about being long in the water. You're very, very buoyant. You can lay, I told you before, you can lay on your stomach, just lift your chin and practice sighting. You can lay on your back. You can float all day. It's a very different experience than if you just hang on the side of your pool and you got to tread water instantly. So it's worthwhile taking that initial part of your swim workout easy just to kind of get reoriented to what it means to swim in a wetsuit with this neoprene on your body and how it changes your stroke. Okay, you shouldn't need to kick at all. I can't say enough. The only kick you really need is a rotational kick. Sometimes the opposition to your pull. People tend to kick with the right leg and then roll onto their left, or kick with their left leg and then roll onto the right, whatever that may be for you. But when I see people swimming and they've got this healthy stream of bubbles coming up, it's not helping you in a wetsuit. For 90% of us, kicking is merely a mechanism to help us lift our hips up. That can be achieved in swimming in a wetsuit simply by putting your head down in the water. If you sink your head in the water when you're laying in your stomach, you're going to feel your hips just pop up in the back. So it's kind of cheating. All you got to do is put your head down and your hips come up, and you don't need to really kick so much. So really work on turning off that kick in swimming. You've got plenty of time on the bike and the run to use those legs. Don't need to use them swimming. And again, it will reduce the chances of you cramping and so on. All right. And then also rolling. We talked about good form. Like the reach naturally happens, but rolling as well. Because you're in this sort of tight neoprene wetsuit, I find that high elbows really help me with rolling. Instead of trying to figure out how to get myself over on my right-hand side, if I'm just recovering with a nice high elbow on my left-hand side, my body naturally just rolls over. You can try it yourself in the water, laying on your stomach, put your hands out in the water, sort of at a 45-degree angle under the water, and just practice lifting your left elbow back, and you'll find that you'll roll right over to your right-hand side, and vice versa. Okay, so you'll see that as you go. All right. So get used to the rhythm, nice and long and smooth strokes. On race day, we're never going to have you swim any harder than your ability to maintain form. That also goes true for open water swimming. We want great form. We want great technique. I want you to be smooth in the water. Don't fight it. So enjoy it. This is an opportunity for you to really kind of slide through the water. All those things that people talk about with great swimming and gliding and so on, this is your chance to experience it. So you want to dive in the water and really kind of get into that zone as quickly as you can, and then sustain that zone as you can in the water. All right. So main set. All right. 2 more sections to go. Main set swimming in open water. What does it mean? People ask me all the time, Patrick, the workout says 5 by 400. How do I do that in open water? Do I do the math on what a 400 in the pool is, and then calculate that and put that onto my watch, and then set the watch to beep at me? So I've done a 400. Or no. Don't ruin open water swimming by trying to make it be like that crappy pool that you just left for this beautiful open body of water to swim. Open water swimming is very different. Open water swimming is much more zen-like. Open water swimming is just as much of a mental exercise as it is physical. As a swimmer, most of us lack the depth or skill set to know what changes to make to maintain our stroke or to keep the momentum going, even though fatigue is settling in, or we swallow some water, or we're feeling a little out of touch with our swim stroke. As a runner, people know what to do with their cadence. If you're cycling, you know when to stand, when to sit, when to shift. Swimming, most people don't have that skill set. So as much open water swimming as you can do, the better off you'll be come race day, just in terms of comfort and general element. So with the actual main workout, it's much more a skill workout than it is any sort of a specific type of workout. So if you can swim in open water, we want you to do it. And the more you can swim in open water, the closer to your race, the better off you'll be. We'll transfer those skills directly into your race situation. But in general, the way we want you to think about it, you get that warm-up for the first 10 minutes are easy to steady. And then the rest of the way out, or the first half of your swim workout, generally it's just kind of steady swimming. Nothing crazy, just steady, good swimming. And then the second half of your workout ends up being kind of moderately hard. So I would call moderately hard more of a zone 3 effort, where most of your swimming on race day will be in zone 2. So on the way back, maybe swim just a little bit harder than you might on race day. Again, just to challenge yourself a little bit, understand what it means to work perhaps just a little bit too hard. And it's something you can get away with in training that you can't quite get away with on race day. I can assure you that you will not have a stunt cat attempting to participate in your own swim lessons, like Daisy is attempting to participate with me. But really, 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 I want you to think about just enjoying that workout and getting used to what it means to swim for 20 minutes without stopping. Like, that's a mental break. That's a real challenge for people to kind of get used to that effort. It's one of the biggest challenges in half Ironman or Ironman distance racing, is people really wrapping their head around what it means to swim continuously for that long. Okay. Our goal overall with the workout is just to get warmed up, get comfortable, and get into a good rhythm. Over time, you'll sustain that rhythm, and we raise the intensity a little bit from steady to moderately hard to simulate the fatigue that you'll experience later in the day. Give you an opportunity to practice what it means to still swim well, even as you tire. Okay, that's really it. I don't want you swimming crazy hard in open water. I don't want you to go anaerobic and get exhausted and potentially cramp in the middle of a gigantic lake where there's no one around. Well, why on earth would you do that to yourself? That's ridiculously dangerous. Okay, so swim well, swim smart, swim smooth, and save the super hard, 50-meter sets for the pool when you want to do that stuff. Okay. So finally, finishing up your swim. Very important, 2 elements. We sort of have the instant finish and then the long-term finish. On the instant finish side, as you're swimming into shore, I want you to swim all the way until your hands touch the bottom. Okay, we don't stand up anytime sooner. swim all the way in. Your hands touching the bottom lets you know that it's shallow enough to stand. It also gives you a sense of what you'll be standing on, whether it's going to be rocks or seaweed or muck or clams or whatever it is. Your fingers are going to give you some instant data that perhaps you can't quite see, and it gives your feet a sense of what they're going to expect. Okay. Generally, I recommend that people come up when they swim until their hands touch the bottom. They come up into a kneeling position. For me, it's my left foot is down and my right knee is down. So I'm sort of kneeling as if I'm about to be knighted, perhaps, or something like that. Some ridiculous, too many princess books in my house, sorry. So I go like that, and then I stand up. Okay, so I'm not trying to do some sort of crazy porpoising action. I'm also not lurching out of the water super fast. Remember, you've been laying down for a while. Standing up is disorientating. So stand up slowly. I put my goggles up on my cap, and then I begin the process of starting my wetsuit and pulling the zipper down. So I kind of go through that process, what it means to exit a swim every time I exit my open water. You don't need to rip it off and sprint up the hill or whatever. Those are all bonus points for you if that's your thing. But in general, you want to get in that habit of getting that process started for your swim. Okay. Once you're done and you've done that silly thing, turn around. Make sure you can account for all your swim buddies. If you enter the water with 6 people, hopefully you and 6 other people exit that water and you can see them or they're swimming to you, etc. We want to make sure everyone's accounted for. We also want you to, when you take off your wetsuit, kind of wash it out. Generally, you take it off, it comes off inside out. You want to store it inside out. The inside part of your wetsuit is much more durable than the outside. The outside gets snagged, ripped, whatever. The inside is more durable, so you take it off, it's inside out. You can lay it in the water, kind of rinse it out. I'll hang it up on a tree branch or a bench or something. Let that drip out before I throw it in my car. My car smells awful for months. You want to fold it up gently, take it home, maybe hang it up again. If you swam in nasty water or something, or you had to swim in a pool for some reason, definitely want to rinse that stuff off. You don't want it to sit around for too long. Dirt, grime, etc., potentially damaging the suit. And then keep it flat, folded lightly in a cool, dark place. In terms of you yourself, when you take that wetsuit off, you have your tri-kit on or whatever you're wearing, you got to change. So you want an oversized, gigantic towel and a healthy dose of flexibility and confidence to be able to change on the side of whatever body of water you're in, because likely there'll be other people there. And so, or a restroom facility or whatever, someplace for you to safely change. And then as you're doing that stuff, just think about goals for next time. Debrief yourself, what was successful, what was not successful about that swim, and what can you learn from. Overall, the closer I get to my race, the longer those open water swims get. In general, I probably wouldn't swim in open water if I couldn't swim at least half an hour. But as I get closer to my race, I may swim, instead of 2.4 miles, I may swim 2.5 or 2.75, or I've done 3-mile swim races around here, just to get a sense for what it means to swim longer than I might normally do. The additional swimming time in a wetsuit isn't so costly as it is just more of a mental exercise, so I'm happy to do that. All right, so those are our open water swim tips for you. We've gone through everything from safety to warm-up to stroke and steering, how to manage your main set, to how to think about things related to open water swimming and transfer them into your race day. That's a lot of information there for you guys. I know it is, but I'm happy to put it in the resource area so you guys can see it, and we'll go through it all. So I see there's a ton of people in here tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming. If you do have questions, I'm going to head over now to the chat area and see what we have from you guys. So if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in there. So we've got Yasko, what's up? Yasko, Trish, Tracy, Mike, Laura, Jody, Frank, Elizabeth, Ed Lang, Charles, and Kathleen tonight. Wow, fantastic. Let's see what we got. All right, I see lots of people talking. Lots of people are here. There we go. Yay, yay, yay. So if you guys have questions for me, please go ahead and type them in here. I'll hang out for a few minutes to kind of go through them. I do want to give a shout out to everyone who raced this past weekend at Reb Friedels, Syracuse 70.3, Mont Tremblant 70.3. Congratulations to you guys. Super awesome to follow you and hear all about your races. Sounds like Rev 3 Dells is the evil twin of the Rev 3 Quasi we have here on the East Coast. I'm going to have to get out there sometime and suffer with you guys. Sounds pretty epic. So thanks for sharing, and congratulations to all of you for finishing. As you guys think about your season and think about race selection, remember, you only have so many races in a year. You only have so many opportunities for you to kind of get in a water in a race scenario. So definitely part of your debriefing of a race should really be around that open water experience and how you can improve. All right. Oh, Jody's got a great question. Jody, always killing it down there. How you doing? Jody says, how important is bilateral breathing? This is an awesome question. Bilateral breathing, I believe, sort of has two main functions in open water swimming. The first and foremost is just comfort. Many people, since they normally breathe on one side or tend to breathe on one side, that leads to imbalances in the stroke that can be uncomfortable over time, or it can perhaps impede your direction in the water as one side gets stronger or you rotate more to one side than the other. So a bilateral breathing, helps you balance that out, perhaps undercutting that tendency to exaggerate one side versus the other. But more importantly for open water swimming, I find that bilateral breathing is like a great escape tool. If you're swimming and you're always breathing your left and there's just chop, wind, or some angry dude over there just making a huge pile of mess with feet and bubbles and kicking and whatever, I want to be able to roll to my right and still get a good breath. There may be times when I go to breathe to my left and I start and I see all this stuff and I don't even get a breath. I just roll right back to the other side and breathe on my right. I'm going to breathe over there for a bit. So bilateral breathing in open water swimming and on race day is much more of a safety mechanism for me than anything else. So it's certainly nice to have. It's something that's worth practicing in open water. And again, in a wetsuit, you really don't have an excuse. In a pool, when you're not so buoyant, you get that sinking sensation when the swim stroke's not going as well as you'd like. Most people can tell, like breathing here, don't like breathing here. And 9 times out of 10, it's just because of the way the lead hand works and the catch, they're just not feeling so supported. If you have a wetsuit on, it's not an issue because you're so buoyant. So you want to work on that for sure. Okay. Great question, Jody. Courtney, yes, I will be posting a recording, I'm sure, of course. No problem. I'm trying to think. Some other things you can practice with open water swimming is sort of like disaster control. If you're I recommend that people swim with their goggles underneath their caps. You put your goggles on first, and you just put your swim cap over it, just like you would on race day. That way, if you get kicked, your goggles just get disoriented on your face or something. That's my disoriented goggle simulation. Versus having them pop off your head if they're on top of your swim cap. So if your goggles get a little dislodged or something, typically they just kind of fill with water. How do you solve that on race day? You don't want to stop, because the minute you stop and sit up, people just run you over, punch you in the head or something like that. So when you're swimming along and your goggles get dislodged, you just reach out in the water and just reach super duper duper far and just roll right over on your back. And now all of a sudden I'm doing backstroke. I can keep kicking my feet down there so people see bubbles, which is their side, and go around me. And while I'm on my back, kicking, I can tilt my goggles out, get the water out of them. I can even lift my head up a little bit, tilt the water out. Put the goggles on back like this, take 1 or 2 more strokes, and then a big stroke, and just roll right over, and then I'm swimming again, okay? A wetsuit allows you to do that, no problem. The same thing goes if you need to catch a breath. If you've swallowed some water, you can just roll right over on your back, keep kicking, keep moving forward. The last thing you want to do is stop and move up in the water like this, because then people will run right into you. Okay. Frank asks, how valuable is it to jump in open water when there is chop or surge? I'm not sure what you mean by that question. You have to ask that question again, Frank. If you mean should you jump into it versus walking into it, or practice swimming in violent conditions? Let me know. Your second question, where's the best place to draft? On the side of the feet. I prefer just off of the hip. So if you think about a boat in the water and you've got kind of this V shape coming off the boat, I prefer to be just kind of off and back to the side here. So I would be kind of swimming just by your knees, basically, is kind of where I would be. If you're on someone's feet, it's fine. What you wouldn't ever do is say, I'm on this guy's feet, but I'd much rather be on his hip. So I'm just going to kind of swim over this way and then swim a little faster. Typically, drafting is so costly in the water that it's like being on the back of a freight train of a group ride. The minute you move off a little bit, you're gone. So if you've got contact on the feet and you're safely on the feet, great. You don't want to be hitting the person's feet all the time and drive them nuts. But generally, you kind of end up where you are. I'm happier on the side of someone, but if I'm on someone's feet and it's safe, I'm all set. I can see where they're at. Okay. Jody asks, swimming in Chattanooga Ironman is down the shoreline. Is it a good idea to sight off the shore instead of the buoys? I don't really think so. I would still sight off of the buoys. You're going to get in, don't forget you've got all the people around you swimming as well, so I would still sight off of the buoys. Another important element to think about is you want to count those buoys. Like, the minute you start focusing on the buoys, you're not thinking about your swim stroke. We recommend that you count your swimming, count your strokes, gets you in a rhythm, gets you thinking about your stroke, and will make that next buoy come faster. The more you sit there and say, was that number 2 or number 3? Were there 7 buoys or were there 9 buoys before the turn? What color is the turn buoy? I'm not sure what's going on. Am I even thinking about swimming? I think I'm just moving my arms in a giant circle and I'm not even swimming. That's going to cost you. Okay, so just focus on your swim stroke. I would definitely sight off with the buoys. You can take comfort in the shoreline, but I certainly wouldn't. There may be some landmarks. You may say to yourself, wow, when I see, Town Hall or that flagpole, I know I'm more than halfway. That's a nice kind of landmark for you, but it's not something I'll be working off of from a directional element. Okay. Oh, okay. Frank wants to know, should you practice swimming in the surge or chop versus he only wants to swim normally when Lake Michigan is flat? As long as you feel safe in the water, it's worth swimming in any conditions. You just never know what you're going to get. So it's make sure that it's safe. But yeah, I would swim in whatever you can get. Again, triathletes, the summer for me, I'm in Rhode Island, which is a pretty good place to swim. I've only really got open water time from June until September. So I've only got 3 months of open water swim time. If I swim once a week, that's just 12 open water swims. It's just not a lot of open water swimming in relation to my race. So any open water swim chance I get, I would swim in it. Is it a great swim? No. But it's an opportunity for me to practice mental toughness, maintain my form, and get the time in. At some point in time, you're going to have a race or whatever that sort of choppy, crappy workout really prepared you for. When it's kind of choppy, you'll be like, oh, this is nothing like that day in Lake Michigan. I'll be fine. But again, safety first. Swim with a group, make sure you're safe. All of that stuff applies. Okay. All right, guys. It is 9:47. I have gotten a little carried away with my swim talk. Probably should have known I was in trouble when I made something with 29 bullet points. But so be it. I didn't want to just kind of do half the topic and then come back for it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will post this for the team so you guys have it as a resource moving forward, including the checklist. I encourage you to continue focusing on your swimming. The closer you get to race day, the more open water swimming you want to do. Open water swimming is a great opportunity to practice your mental toughness and your skill depth in the water. Not so much about fitness as it is about sustained effort in the water and great form. I look forward to hearing your feedback on the boards and seeing you guys at the races when you rip it up in the water. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Coach Patrick from Endurance Nation, home of the world's largest and fastest online triathlon team, 4 keys of race execution, and the first-time finish guarantee. You can find us online at endurancenation.us. See you guys.